Welcome to MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. Each week, I talk with industry leaders on both marketing and entrepreneurship and business to find out all about their wins and failures in marketing right now. We'll hear all about successes and wins and what's fallen flat so that you can take that knowledge and implement it. Learn from the best, from the folks who've been there and done it all, as well as people just like you. Thanks for joining us. This is MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers.
Hello and welcome to this week's MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers, where we bring you experts from the industry to share their knowledge and experience, as well as entrepreneurs who are finding the same challenges and battles that you are with marketing without being a marketing expert. Today's episode is no different from usual. We have the fantastic Sam and Kat with me from What's Next Consulting. Thank you very much for joining me, both of you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us on.
Awesome. I like today's episode because it's the first time I've had people with a local accent on to me. So I'm like, I do this weird, really posh video accent, which I don't know where it comes from. It just helps with the transcription. I think I've done it for that reason. It's not intentional, but I am a Mackem. If anybody hears me get angry, you'll know that I'm a Mackem. And Sam and Kat both operate out of Northumberland area, right? Sam, we haven't met before this, but you sound like you've got a Northumberland accent.
Yes, so I am just about half a mile over the border into Northumberland, so I can claim that for sure.
Just to say. So, Sam has 14 years experience in crafting effective market strategies for everything from global brands down to small enterprises. And Kat is the digital lead who excels in integrating digital tools and strategies to maximize their clients' investments. So kind of make a bit of a power team between the two of them. And together they help businesses achieve their marketing goals with a blend of kind of strategic insight and practical implementation. And both of you guys, this resonates so much with me, both of you enjoy outdoor activities. Surfing and hiking for Sam, wow, I love to surf, I just can't swim. I love hiking. And Kat, you're training for a 50-mile race. Is that a running race or a walking race?
Well, ostensibly it's a running race. I will run some of it, but there's no way I'll be running every one of the
fast walk
of the 50 miles. It's more really a fast walk, that relentless forward motion thing. That's in the sort of ultra distances. That's all you can do.
Marathon, yeah.
You know, if you crawl over the finish line, you've still done it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you both put me to shame because like at the moment, like I find it hard just to find the energy to take my son training football and watch him playing football. Never mind actually take part in the activities. But I do love a good walk. So I guess this is a question between the both of you. Like as we get into things, I always like to hear a little bit about the story of how your business got started. What was how did you guys meet each other, and how did you come up with the name What's Next Consulting? Because I love that as a title, and it's what initially drew me to kind of message you guys and invite you on the show. But would love to hear the story.
So I went freelance, set up What's Next about 2 years ago now. So it's something that had been kind of rattling around in my head for a long time of let's make a go of it out on my own. And What's Next is because I am a geek, basically. And I was very obsessed with the TV program, The West Wing. And like the president's catchphrase in that program is like, what next? He's always trying to move on to what next. And there's usually some kind of really high-powered conversation happening whilst walking down the corridor. Was like the kind of the cliche thing that happened in that show. So yeah, that's kind of what prompted the name and how it all came about. But me and Kat have known each other since like primary school. So it's more years than I care to admit to at this point. But yeah, so we've kind of been friends and kind of sounding boards for each other for work stuff for, since it really became an issue. And we both kind of went down the marketing route in different directions. I did a very zigzag career of radio production and media side and stuff, and then kind of crossed back into the marketing side and went kind of heavily brand focused and content focused, whereas Kat went down the very traditional and marketing route to begin with, and then kind of became this digital expert on your side. So I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I was doing the maths there. Like we're only 25, so we can't know each other that. No, just kidding. A couple of decades of comparing notes, and my career started off work for a lot of manufacturing businesses, kind of doing in the marketing department, but really a lot of what I was doing was change management and being involved in kind of process design and things like that. So that's the thread that's run through what I've done really. Even when I was running a big global marketing department, we were going through huge amounts of change. And so I was there to sort of designing toolkits for our team to use internally and kind of behind the scenes. And that's a huge part of what I do. I spent about 6 years running a web development team in an agency. So translating client requirements into sort of stuff the devs could build, and then vice versa. Devs had a problem with something, getting that back to the client and kind of helping them understand. And that's where this kind of passion for helping people get the most out of their toolkits came from, because the number of clients you'd work with and they'd be going, oh, we need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And you're kind of going, you can already do that. Click on this button and it'll work. And there was so much of what clients came to us with that they could already do with the toolkit they had, or they just needed to think a little bit creatively about joining two things together. They didn't need to go and invest in a load of extra development, which I don't tell the sales team, because I think they would be upset with me for that. But going, you don't need us to give us any money, just use what you've already got. But yeah, and that's kind of where I got into the digital side of things, really.
Fantastic. So I guess if you could sum it up, what kind of separates what's next from other marketing agencies that might be out there? Why are you guys different? Who are you aimed at, and how do you support those people?
So we've always kind of had this no nonsense approach. Like, we don't want to kind of add any bells and whistles that you don't need. We can bolt on in whichever way is needed. And we kind of try not to overcomplicate things with too much jargon. I think a lot of businesses out there assume that the level of knowledge in digital especially, but kind of marketing as a whole, is so much higher in kind of a general business perspective than it actually is. And so a lot of what we're doing can seem like it's setting the groundwork for something, and it's kind of giving, like, this is where the kind of the whole toolkit approach comes in, because it's kind of, let's give you the tools you need, whether that's from a content and a brand perspective, or whether that's from a digital strategy and kind of more kind of health check perspective. It's kind of like, let's arm people with these tools so that they can go forward and do things. So we want to really, it's so cliched, the word empower, but we want to make sure that people feel confident in using these things going forward, rather than, I hate the idea of a strategy that just sits in a drawer and nobody ever comes back to. Again, that's kind of where we're really trying to get away from it. We're trying to make everything really practical, really easy to understand, and give people really actionable steps that they can approach themselves.
And I think, like, we really meet people where they are. And I think to kind of, we've both been in businesses where thousands of pounds have been spent on, tens of thousands of pounds spent on pieces of consultancy work that end up just being too big a jump in one go. It's like this kind of, it becomes overwhelming for the team, and everyone's kind of going, well, that's great, but we've got a day job to do, and we've got a product launch coming up, and we've got this, that, and the other. We can't stop and redo that. And so we're much more focused on, most of the clients we work with are kind of either sort of business owners themselves, or kind of small marketing teams where everyone's really a generalist. And we're trying to bring a little bit of that specialist knowledge. So if we're working with you on a content strategy, we'll deep dive on that for you. But then we'll give you like something you can use in like a checklist, and something that you can actually, it's a manageable step from where you are now to where you want to be. Not, here's how you try and be. I don't know. I used to have a sales director who was obsessed with Land Rover, and he was constantly sending me things. Oh, Land Rover have done this, Land Rover have done that. And I'm going, they've got a 24-person team and their budget's about 40 times what mine is. Like, we can't do that, but like, what's 1% of it that we can deliver, and like try and move in that direction?
I think it's also about as well, just giving people a fresh perspective, because you can have really experienced people on in-house team who do, to be honest, feel a bit frustrated because they are just so caught up in the day-to-day. And it might just be a project that's got them bogged down, or, one example on the content side is just like a piece of writing that had so many people in that document and had so many different comments and all with their own takes, that the person who's trying to pull it all together is just tearing their hair out. So it could be that kind of just a fresh perspective on things as well.
it's funny because like marketing's one of those few verticals that everybody seems to think that they can be a marketing expert, and they don't even do it intentionally. You know, I'll go into, I've talked to lots of teams, same as you guys do, and the CEO's got one view of things, then you've got the sales team have another view on things, and everybody's so busy trying to tell the marketing team what to do. Sometimes it just takes, I think it's quite useful to have that marketing function outsourced, because then you're not beholden to the rest of the team and you can just deliver on what you're paid for. But even that can cause sort of conflict within the business in terms of, oh, well, I know we brought you in to do this, but we've asked you to achieve that and you haven't done it. Well, yeah, because the brief was this over here, and you've tried to metamorphose this into an actual beast, and that's not what we agreed to. So it's I don't see that happening with many other verticals other than maybe the development team. You know, if I work with product teams and dev teams, certainly gets laboured with that same problem. Is like everybody's got an opinion on the product. Why haven't you delivered what everybody wanted? This isn't, you know, development by consensus. It is what's right for the customer.
Yeah, really interesting role that we kind of get pulled into sometimes. I've kind of labelled it business therapy, and of like just sitting down with people and letting them kind of, you know, unload all of this stuff of like, maybe it is they're trying to think of about 3 different directions to go in, or they've tried to kind of skip to the end of a project and haven't quite nailed down that, like, what the brand is at the start of it or what the objective of a digital project is. You know, it's kind of this classic entrepreneurial, I want to do the next thing, but we kind of acted that, like, let the groundwork in first. And like I say, sometimes it is more like a business therapy session of like, let you vent, let you tell us all the problems in your business, and we might not be able to solve them all, but we can get you kind of on the right direction there.
See, there's a little bit of a human trait where it's really hard to prioritize your own list, I think, sometimes. And you sometimes, like, working with an external person just really helps you sort through what's next. There you go. It's my first using the what's next cliche. Helping you sort through what's next and like where to start, how to take a manageable step. And like, you know, you might have a 5-year plan and be totally overwhelmed by that plan, but actually it's totally achievable if you break it down. That's always really hard to do with your own projects, I think.
Yeah. So do you guys think that your personal exercise and things that you guys do outside of the business, do you think that reflects on your role within the business a little bit as well? Because I've got my suspicions. Like, I've known a couple of ultra marathon runners, and I know what sort of personality they are, because it does take a very specific sort of person to be able to do that. And then, you know, likewise, Sam, you know, surfing, doing yoga, like those reflect a very different kind of skill set. So I can kind of see why you guys come together. But how does that play out in business terms for you?
So I am a big advocate of surfing teaches you like 1,000,001 life lessons. There's like so much frustration about it. There's so much practice in different conditions every day, and it kind of so much to learn all the time. I think I definitely take a lot of that forward in kind of the beginner's mindset, and kind of, you know, not being afraid to try new things and all of those sorts of cliches as well to drop in. But yeah, it's kind of my main thing about the outdoor side of stuff is just it helps me switch off and to kind of recharge. And I'm, you know, a huge believer in the fact that you can't be glued to a screen all day and still be productive and still be creative and all those good things. You definitely need that kind of balance in life of getting away from a screen and being able to kind of have those creative moments, which might happen at the top of the hill, might happen when you're sitting on a surfboard out in the sea, but they very rarely happen when you're kind of bouncing from one Zoom meeting to the next, or you're stuck in a Google spreadsheet or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think there's obviously a balance to be had there, but I've definitely found it beneficial for me.
I was thinking about this the other day, actually, because I knew we were coming on here, and I was out on a run, and I was thinking about what's coming up in my diary. Oh, I'm doing a podcast. I was thinking about it. And I think trail running and like training for any big race, it's sort of almost a case study or a case study in what it's like to do any big hard project. Like, there's so many analogies, like chasing after a hairy goal, always hard, and you need a plan if you're thinking about marketing, you need your marketing plan, you need your content plan. If you're thinking about running, you need your training plan. And you need the kind of tenacity to get back on track when that goes wrong, because life will happen. You'll miss a blog post or you'll miss a long run. And I think you need to get back on track and just kind of believe in the process, because I think, your marketing's not going to be ruined by one blog post not being quite what you wanted. Your race isn't going to be ruined by one long run being not what you wanted. It's kind of what you do most days that adds up over the course of it. And you can never see that progress when you're in it. It's only when you look back and you go, oh, actually, here's where I was. And, 2 years ago, I had 5 followers on Instagram and now I've got 5,000. But you don't notice you've added 1 this month. You notice over the course of much or longer term. And the same's true with kind of those big running goals. When you're in it, you feel like you're making no progress. It just feels hard. You feel discouraged. And it's the same with big business projects. You'll get to that point in the middle where you're just going, what's even the point? We should just give up. But you have to stick at it and work the plan. And guess what? Training works. Marketing strategies work. Stick to the plan.
Definitely have those moments with surfing as well, where I feel like a complete fraud, and I come on podcasts like this and talk about, I love surfing and it's center of my life. And then I go out and have an atrocious surf and barely catch a single wave. What am I actually talking about? But then, like you say, you look back to when you first started out and you were just happy to be out in the sea, or the fact that you even stood up once in 3 months was a big achievement. That thing of let's step back and see how far you've come is huge.
Absolutely.
And I think you go after surfing's another kind of analogy of, you go after, as you get better, you go after harder waves. So you go out in conditions that are more challenging and more difficult. And that's the same in business. The more confident you get, you're going to go after bigger projects. You're going to go after clients that are harder to win. And so, of course, it's going to still feel hard, but actually the return when you do get it right is going to be bigger.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for the show. I'm Paul, founder here at Javelin Content Management. We specialize in getting ideas out of your head, down into video, and out to your social media through repurposing and efficient content strategies. If you want to find out how you can convert your ideal audience into paying customers, reach out to us, javelincontent.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
So I guess, Kat, you've kind of been in the middle of people, processes and technology for quite a long time. How do you balance integrating things like bespoke and off-the-shelf tools with a specific budget in mind for a client who might not have what, I see this a lot as people come, they don't really appreciate all the hard work that goes into marketing. It's a bit of a black box for a lot of people. And from the outside, it seems really simple. If I had a penny for every time I've heard marketing team referred to as the colouring in team, that's what it perceived as from the outside. So how do you balance that budget with what the client actually needs and wants?
Yeah, it can be really challenging, because I think, going back to that Land Rover story from before, everybody's got these big ambitions and their budgets don't necessarily line up. I think it's all about keeping an eye on the big picture and keeping an eye on who's your customer, what are you actually trying to do? And so that might be your external customer. If you're thinking about a project like a website, you want to know what the external customer is trying to do with that toolkit. But I think also keeping an eye on what the internal team need as well is really important, because there's no point in making something that looks beautiful for your kind of customer if then your internal team have an absolute nightmare keeping it up to date and using that toolkit. And I think that's where people go wrong sometimes. You see it time and again. They've kind of just started kind of going through a process and going, oh, we need a new website, but haven't thought about, well, what's the business goal that you're trying to do there, and what are all the different ways of achieving that goal? When I was in the development world, used to get really frustrated with clients who came to us having solutionized their problem, and they would kind of come to us and say, we need a X, Y, and Z. Well, why do you need that? What objectives? Let's wind back. What objectives are you trying to hit? And therefore, what's the best possible way we build something that will do that? And it might be you need a new website, and it might need to be bespoke because you've got a really niche requirement. But usually it's something different when you kind of get into it with a client. It's more, oh, well, our current website needs a new front end, but the back end's fine. Or it might be, actually, the main problem is in the integration with some internal system. And so we should probably invest the money in fixing that because it's going to have more of an impact. And going back to Sam's point before about business therapy, that discovery phase is like the most useful part, because you get someone to just kind of tell you everything that's wrong with the current world. But then I think one of the most powerful questions is, tell me what's going right in the current world, because then you'll uncover a load of stuff that their existing platform already does really well. And if you're thinking about replacing it, you're going to go, well, actually, you might have to invest this much to get you just back to where you are now. Do you really want to do that? Or do you want to build an improvement project? Do you want to work on something behind the scenes instead and automate something in the background rather than think? Because everybody can visualize what a new website looks like, it's easy to jump to that being the solution to all problems without doing that little bit of analysis. I'm not sure that really answers the question, though.
I don't think there is a simple answer to it. That's exactly why I asked it. I think everybody's kind of got their own answer to it, but it is interesting. The more experienced marketers that I speak to, there is a level of confidence there about how they influence the business owners to question the things that they're bringing to the table so that they come to the right conclusions themselves. And it is almost about coaching and mentoring them into the right frame of mind. And I think that's a bit that a lot of people miss out on. They don't have that skill set. And so they end up trying to do what the clients ask them to do. And, with the best will in the world, the customer is always the customer. That is true. But the customer doesn't always know what the customer needs. They just know what they want.
And I think it's really,
I guess
it's really easy to kind of get on that hamster wheel of just delivering something and just kind of, okay, we've changed direction again, let's deliver that. And as an internal team, it's really hard to challenge. But I guess given that it's kind of a nice position to be in, to when somebody's brought you in who was already kind of said, okay, we know we're kind of lacking in this area and we need some extra support here. So, we understand that we're in kind of a privileged position and we've got that extra weight that we can talk to clients and kind of bring these issues out over the course of a project. And it is really hard. And I think everybody wants to see fresh new pictures and pretty new colors and all of those kind of the outputs at the end, and thinks it's really easy to get there, especially when their kind of brother-in-law or whoever it may be makes websites on the side or something, and you've kind of got to tackle all of these kind of existing biases across the team or whatever that may be. But you've got to, like Kat says, just to challenge where they're at, what's going right, what's going wrong. And that can be from a really low level of actually producing content hard in itself, never mind the technical platforms that underpin all this stuff as well. So what do you actually want to achieve from doing a weekly blog post, and what are your expectations from how long that's going to come to fruition? Because if you think you're going to double your website traffic in 2 months, then you're probably not going to get what you want out of it. Like, are you investing budget behind that? What's the support there? But if you're thinking over a year or 18 months, then that's going to help you get in that position. Then absolutely, let's talk about that. But yeah, a lot of it is just kind of setting those expectations, challenging existing assumptions, and kind of trying to bring the cost side into focus. And it may be that there are really efficient ways to do it, but there may be that, look, you want to do this right, you're going to have to invest more money up front to get there in the long run.
I think that point about content productions are a really important one, because I think there's sometimes this assumption that your internal team's time is free. And the number of times I see websites where I'm going, that's not been updated for like 6 years. I was on a holiday park place at Easter, and they had loads of stuff on their website about like, here's all the pubs you can visit in the local area. But all of the content said like, this one is closed for COVID. And I'm going, probably not closed for COVID anymore. It's 2024. But no one's ever gone back and updated that information. I think there's like,
everybody's back to
it'll
doing
be
their
because
actual
the person
jobs
whose job
now.
that is already had a full-time job. Yeah. So yeah, I think like it's always, you've just got to be so careful in like, what's the actual objective? And when you're being efficient with your budget, don't forget that if you're saying the internal team will do it, that doesn't mean it's free. It might look free in your cash flow, but it's not. Like, what's the value of your team's time, and is it better to pay somebody externally? Content population on a new website is a classic one. It always takes clients a really long time, and because they're doing their day jobs, they're like, give us a little bit of day rate money and we'll do it for you. And you'll start getting the return on that investment much more quickly than if your developers finished the site and then your wait is like 3 months before you've finished populating it. It's just counterintuitive to not spend that money, to me.
Okay, then. Do you know what? Like, I think we could probably rattle on for like 2 or 3 hours together, because like there's so many moments that you've said something and I'm like, oh, I could go off on a tangent about that, and then we bring back and we're like, I've got the 30-minute limit on the show that I'm trying to hit, so like I'll probably invite you guys back on again at some point. But before we draw to a close, I ask every guest the same 2 questions. There's 2 of you, so feel free to kind of jump in and answer between both of you. What's one thing that really annoys you both from a marketing perspective that companies are always trying to do that just doesn't work? Could be a tool, could be a framework, a strategy, the way they do things, I don't know, but something that they all do that you just wish they'd stop doing.
Mine would be jumping onto every single social media platform under the sun. There's very rarely a company out there who actually needs to be on them all. And I think it's a better use of everyone's time to focus your effort. And we're all just easily distracted by the new shiny thing and think that we need to go in. You know, we've bored at Instagram now, but we could do TikTok this week, and then maybe we can do, I don't know what else would be next week now, but you know, there's like loads of them popping up every day that have got slightly different features there. And the resource just to maintain those accounts, you just see like the internet being littered with outdated brand accounts. And yeah, I just really wish that people would focus their efforts on just one or just a couple.
I like that. I think the thing, when I've worked internally or with internal marketing teams, the thing I see time and again that really frustrates me is being distracted from your kind of North Star and what you're trying to do by what the competition's doing or what your CEO's favorite brand out there in the world is doing. Like, you can't, you know, to go back to the analogy with running, like if I start getting distracted from my training plan by what the world champion ultra distance runner is doing, that's not going to help me, because that's just never achievable, not in my world. And, you know, likewise, if I'm too busy looking around at what my peers are doing and getting upset because somebody's got more miles in this week than me, it's a total distraction. You need to take a bit of inspiration from the competition by all means, and I always encourage clients to have like a couple of definitions of their competition. One is who you're genuinely going after the same customers as, and then one is like the aspirational brand that you wish you could be if money was no object. Have that in the back of your mind and use it for inspiration for the plan, but then don't get distracted from actually executing on the plan that you put together just because somebody's done something. You don't need to react to every other thing in your market. And I think clients often think that their customers are paying more attention than they are to what they're doing. They're not. Like, just stick to your plan, deliver it. It will work. Don't get distracted.
Keep it faith. I like it. And then to kind of flip that question on its head, then what's one thing that you wish businesses would start doing? Now it becomes obvious why I said they can't be opposite, because it's kind of cheating. We're trying to give a bit more value for people. So what's one thing that you wish they would do?
I wish that businesses would make the most of what they already have. We've touched on this before, but if you've got a website, like, do an audit every now and again and work out, is your content still working? Have you fallen into any bad habits in terms of like the technical SEO good practice? Everyone, when they get a new site, is really, really good at it's up to date. It's all, you know, they've ticked all the best practice boxes, but they never go back and kind of make sure that's happening. You know, the example of the site which had loads of COVID information on it, like, go update that, put that in your diary and keep that up to date. The same thing with your sort of internal toolkit. If you're using HubSpot or Salesforce or a social media scheduling tool, do a bit of a platform audit from time to time. Like, get the team together, work out what are all the things that you need to get done with this toolkit. Can it still do what you need? Is there something better out there? Not that you should be jumping from platform to platform all the time, but the likes of kind of, you know, all these software as a service business, tweak that offer all the time. You might find that actually you've got two things, and now they both do both. So you could get rid of one, and you can save yourself some money in your subscription, and be a load of time in hopping between two platforms. I think don't treat the internal team's time as free. Try and free them up to do something more valuable than copying and pasting things from one platform to another.
I think mine would be more to focus on the customer. And by that, I mean kind of really deep dive into it. Don't just assume you know who the customer is, and look at all the different, without even paying for someone to come and do a piece of customer research. You've got so much data at your fingertips now in terms of analytics, comments on social. There's just so many places that you can pull from to find out what your customers are thinking, what they're looking for. You can use things like heat maps on your site to find out where they're actually stopping, looking for information, where they're getting fed up, what they're getting frustrated by. I think there's so many assumptions that businesses carry with them about who their customers are without really digging into it. And once you really do, you've got a goldmine of insight for, your platform and how you shape your offer and all those kinds of things, but also for content. Your customers are crying out for content and you're just not listening to them half the time. And some of that is a blocker to why they're not buying from you. So they're looking for information, looking for that additional reassurance. And if they're not getting it, it's probably why they're leaving and going to one of your competitors instead. So it sounds like a really simple place to start. And I feel like a lot of businesses maybe have an idea of who their customer is at the beginning, and kind of takes them a while over time to find who their customer actually is. And as they grow, you kind of get further away from who their actual customer is. And you kind of have to go back time and again and just kind of really discover who it is, because every person on that team can have a different idea of who they're trying to target. And unless you pull that back in, you're all going to be going in different directions and have different ideas on what's the best route forward, because you haven't kind of agreed on, look, these are the people who are actually buying from us. This is what they're saying about us. This is what they like. This is what they don't like. And this is what they want us to say. This is what they want, reassurance they want from us in order to buy. And whether that's consumer or whether that's B2B, I think, the people are people, and that same kind of level of insight and research rings true.
It's that classic as well of like, building on what you were saying about that and the stuff about strategies that sit in a drawer. If you go to the bother of doing that customer research, having a look back through your analytics, through your Google reviews, whatever you've got, share that with your team, however big that team is, print it out, stick it on the wall above your desk so that it's always there and in the back of your mind. And I think like that's where all of us can be better, right? In as human beings, is that thing of like, take the advice you've been given, use the knowledge that you already have, like don't do it once and then forget about it.
Yeah, there's so many times when someone can give you because like a real gem of insight and it's just forgotten about like 2 weeks later, because that person's then forgotten to share it. So it's almost like, okay, what kind of structures can you put in place to kind of come back, whether it's like a quarterly, like a customer review or however you want to badge it, but just kind of something that's really in your schedule of, we're going to come back and make sure that we're paying attention to who our customer is and what they want from us. And we're going to do that on a really regular basis. But yeah, totally. We've spoken about this a lot of like doing, like, are you paying attention to the advice you've been given? Because there's so much valuable insight out there. Especially when it comes to the B2B world as well. Like everybody's giving you their take on things. And sometimes we listen to it and we think that's really good, and then we forget about it the next day. So yeah, are you taking the advice you've been given?
I literally have a post-it note that sits above my desk that says, take the advice you've been given, because it's like so valuable. But yeah, I know I need to do that. Somebody told me that.
I got some advice the other day from it was actually in a newsletter. It's a newsletter I'd signed up to. And the opening paragraph was, so many people are looking for advice from other people for business in general, not just on marketing, just business in general. And what they advised you to do was just imagine that a good friend, their daughter is setting up their own car washing business, and they've come to you for advice and mentoring, and write them an email and tell them what you think that they should be doing, how they grow that business, how they become better at what they're doing, how they then free themselves up from running that business. and then send yourself that email and then read through it and ask yourself, do you do all of that advice that you've just given to that young person? Because chances are probably not. I just thought, what an interesting way of sort of framing your own advice up to be able to become a bit more self-aware. Sam, Kat, it's been fantastic chatting with you both. I've really enjoyed the conversation. If the audience at home have enjoyed the conversation as well and they want to reach out to what's next, or they want to speak to you guys individually, how can they reach you? What the best platform and tools to reach you?
So LinkedIn is the best in terms of the social network. So we're both on there personally, and there's a What's Next consulting company page. And then you'll find us on what'snextconsulting.co.uk.
I will make sure all those links are in the show notes should anybody be curious to find out more. Thanks very much for being fantastic guests, both of you. First time I've done a three-way podcast, so I've enjoyed that, and hopefully you guys you've enjoyed offloading a little bit as well, right?
It's good to get those frustrations out in the wild.
Thanks very much. And if you're watching along, you're listening along, thank you very much for making this podcast the success that it is. Again, as ever, if you've got an idea for a guest, if you'd like to be on the show, you know somebody who'd make a great guest to be with us, or if you've just got some topics that you'd like us to cover to help you in your business, we can maybe look for some guests that match those. So do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you on the show. And we will see you again next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. Contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Your host today was me, Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Here at Javelin, we specialise in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. We describe it as getting ideas out of your head, into video, and out to your socials. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximise your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next Wednesday for the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a review. Our podcast is only possible with your continued support.